Welcome back to UK Planet Tools. I'm Steve from Makita, and we've got some fantastic products that we launched in January 25 to show you on the LXT and XGT platform. We've got some sanding, cutting, impact drivers, cleaning items, as well as nailers for you to have a look at. So let's get into it and have a closer look. So this is the DBN First Fix Framing Nailer from Makita. It's got a nice clear view window that takes up to 58 nails at a time. They are a first fix framing nailer, so they are 30 to 34 degrees in angle, and they are 50 to 90 mil in length, depending on what size you need in the machine. The magazine has a anti-dry fire, so when you do get to the last 5 or 6 shots, it will stop the gun, so it won't allow you to dry fire and damage the working mechanism inside. It's got a nice aggressive nose piece, which has to be depressed when you're firing the gun. And then adjustment of the depth is done by the thumb screw at the top. So by moving that left or right will move your nail deeper or shallower into the material that you're firing into. Also on this side, we have a nice belt hook. So that is there to hook onto your work belt or onto your trouser belt. And then round the other side, we have a rather large joist hook. So you can hang it up on any joist or scaffolding that if you need to, you can hang it out of the way. On the bottom of the machine, we have our battery slot, which is anti-shock as well. So it is built in there, so it will take away the shock from the battery, so you won't damage your LXT battery when you're firing the gun. Now we've got the battery on, we can turn our power on by holding the power light on. That will indicate with a light to show that we're in single shot mode. And then by pushing the mode button again, that will switch it over to the bump fire mode, which allows us to depress the trigger and just make contact with the nose piece into the material to fire the gun. With that on as well, we do have a nice LED light on the front of the machine that will light up the area that you're working in so that you can see exactly where you're firing your nails. So that was the DBN 900 First Fix Nailer from Makita. So the BS001 GZ 40 volt XGT belt sander from Makita has a 76mm by 533 belt attached to the machine. That is adjusted by the toolless thumb screw on the front of the machine, which allows us to true it up to the machine, which means it won't allow the belt to go off to the left or right and damage the accessory when we're using it. We've got a nice adjustable LED light at the front, which can be locked into different positions to light up the application that we're doing. We also have a large front handle, which is fully adjustable on the machine. So if we're doing it on large material, we can get a good perch with the handle down. But if we adjust it up, if we need to get into tight spaces to get that front end in, to sand into corners or up against walls, then we can move the handle out the way. Our 40 volt battery slots onto the top, nice and easy. And then on the side, to put our belt on, it's all toolless, so we just open that lever up and that will allow us to slide the belt on to get the machine started. You have got AWS Bluetooth dust extraction at the back, as well as variable speed by the trigger, as well as a lock on and lock off function. There is also a variable speed by the dial, so you can set the speed of the machine and lock the machine on and let that do the work without you having to use your finger on the trigger. Dust extraction on the machine is round to the side, and as you can see there, it's got a lock off nozzle as well, so when you put your dust extraction on, it does lock it in place so that it's unlikely to get pulled off when using it. Now with this machine, obviously you can use the BL 4025s, 4050s, 4040s and the 4080 batteries, but if you use the 4040Fs or below, so the 4040 or the 4025, you can use the machine, as you can see with the flat design, inverted, so it will allow you to use it as a linisher, which again in turn comes in handy when you use the lock-on function, because that can now spin the disc up and we can now use it to linish, sharpen metal items, sharpen wooden items. Now with that in mind, you do get this in the box as standard equipment, and that will lock onto the side, and that gives you a guard, so when you are linishing, nothing that you are using will shoot off the other end if it slips out of your hand. So it's important to put that on as a bit of a safety precaution. Now with the BS001, it will run at 1400 watts when you're using it with a 40 volt battery, but just be mindful as well, if you do need to use it with a little bit more power, if you use the PDC 1500 backpack battery with this machine, it will go up to 1700 watts of output. So that is the BS001 GZ on the 40 volt XGT platform. So this is the world's largest battery-powered circular saw from Makita, the HS013GZ. It has a 415mm blade in there, which gives us a massive 158mm depth of cut when cutting timbers. So ideally, if you're someone that is in grounds maintenance, doing landscaping with large timbers, railway sleepers, this is the saw you want to get because it will go through it in one. With that in mind as well, there is some really nice features on the front of this machine as we go round. So as we get to the front, we do have a switch here, which is a stabilisation switch for the blade. So when we're using the machine, if we're cutting something that we need quite a precise cut and we don't want any wobble or vibration into the blade, we can flick that switch. That will sit nicely against the blade and keep it nice and stable in the cut. But if we are doing rough cuts where we're not too worried about the finish, we can just leave that unplugged and let the saw cut through. As we move up to the top, we've got a nice large dust extraction port, which is powered by AWS Bluetooth. If you have the Bluetooth dust extraction, you can connect this with the AWS and allow that to turn on and off as you pull the trigger of the machine. Moving on to the trigger is a standard pull the trigger, but it does have a lock off function on there as well. So you do have to depress the button to allow the trigger to turn on the machine, but it will not lock on. It will only have that lock off function because of the size of the saw itself. Around here, we have our pendulum guard, which we can move by hand, which is spring mounted. And also with the base of the machine, as you can see, we can bevel it over the same as a standard Circ saw to its 45-degree bevel. Again though, with the base, you can see here the blade protrudes out the bottom. So when this saw is set to 0, it doesn't allow you to sit it flat on the table nice and stable. So with that in mind, and with the way of transporting this machine itself, when you buy it, as standard in the box, comes this large plastic housing that it allows it to sit in and be nice and stable on the back of the van or for storage. So we can lift that up. It just clips in by itself and by the weight of the machine as it drops into there. Now with that, I can spin it round nice and easily, and I can show you the other functions on the other side. So on here, we have our depth adjustment lever. So if we push that in the upright position, that will now let us drop the saw to the desired depth of cut we wish. But if you are using it in the transport box as well, it is good to put it down into its lowest position because it keeps the blade nice and protected in the base of the box. Also, we have our battery compartment for our 40-volt XGT to slot onto, and then we have our AWS Bluetooth chip mounted on the side. We also have a nice large support handle, so with your trigger finger on the back handle, you can support the weight of the machine with that large side handle. You do get a guide fence in the box, which is what you slide into the side of the machine and lock down with these locking nuts there, and that can give you a nice steady cut when you cut in large straight lines. So lastly, I just spin it round. So the machine also has an electric brake, so as soon as you release that trigger, the blade will stop rotating for safety, and the machine itself only comes in at 11 kilograms, so it really isn't that heavy to use. So that was the world's largest battery-powered circular saw from Makita, the HS013GZ. So this is the newest impact driver on the 18-volt LXT range, and it is the DTD173. The main feature from this is the new ergonomical design, so it is very compact at only 111 millimeters from front to back. But what it does lack in size, it makes up for in power. So this is one of the most powerful impact drivers on the LXT range at a massive 180 Newton meters of fastening torque. We then move on to the machine itself. At the front, we have a massive 360-degree LED glow light with pre-glow, afterglow, and it also has 3 brightness settings, which can be done by the switch on the back of the machine. It's got a 1/4 inch quick change chuck on the front, so it's nice and easy just to pull that through, release the bit and place your new bit in. And then we have a variable speed by the trigger, a forward and reverse switch on the side, and that's it on the top half of the machine. Now when we move on to the body, the other main feature of this machine, as you can probably tell, is all the mode functions have been moved from the front of the drill now to the back side of the drill. So on there, it's nice and easy for you to view and see what mode you're in when using the actual machine itself. Now with this in mind, we've got 4 power mode settings, which is done by the power mode to the left, and then to the right, we've got our modes that were used for the functions of the drill. So we've got wood mode, bolt mode, tech screw mode for thin and thick sheet metal, as well as our 1 to 4 power mode settings, as well as our assist mode as well. So if you can't decide which mode you need to put it in, if we just hold that button down and put it into the A mode, that will automatically set the machine up to what you need when you're drilling the actual material you're drilling. We can also turn the light off, as I've already said before about the LED light. The switch on that is at the back there, so that will allow you to turn the light on and off, and it will allow you to go through the brightness settings. So with all the modes and features that we've just gone through, we have made it easier by putting a quick switch on the top of the machine. That will allow you to program 2 functions or settings to that button so you can quickly switch between the 2. It takes an 18 volt LXT battery which slides onto the bottom, and you also get a belt hook in the box which we'll be able to put on the left or right of the machine. So that was the DTD 173 impact driver from Makita. This is the new impact wrench, the TW002GZ on the 40 volt XGT platform. The main feature of this machine as an impact wrench is the torque, and the maximum fastening torque of this is 1,700 Newton meters of torque, but it will allow you to go up to 2,200 of nut busting torque. So that is where you feather the trigger for a few seconds at a time rather than prolong holding it. Starting at the bottom of the machine, we've obviously got our XGT battery that slots onto the bottom. We've then got our control unit. So with this as well, it does have quite a lot of different functions, which we've done from the control panel. So you've got 4 power settings to set the machine to the desired power, but then we've got some auto modes as well, which if we put it in auto mode 1 and we're fastening a bolt up onto a stud, what mode 1 will do is as soon as it gets to the tightening point, it will switch the machine off. In mode 2, once it gets to the tightening point, it will run for another half a second just to give it a little bit of extra tightening. And then in mode 3, it will run for 1 second after it's tightened, again to give it more extra tightening torque on there. We've then got a light indicator. So with this machine, it does have a twin LED light system, so it will light up the area that they're working in, and you can turn that light on and off by the switch at the bottom. As well as having a variable speed trigger, this does have a button on the bottom, so we can turn that variable speed off and have it to direct power. So as soon as you touch that trigger, it'll automatically go to full speed. The other feature here at the bottom is we've got a divorced body of the machine from the battery area. So it does have some wobble in there, and that is because of the amount of impact and vibration going through this machine. With that divorce from there, it won't damage the control unit or the battery itself. Move up to the top of the machine. We've already gone through the variable speed trigger, which can be switched on and off. And then we have our forward and reverse switches on there as well. At the top of the machine, it's got some nice robust rubber housing, which is there to protect the machine. So if you do drop it or bang it against anything, it is well protected. And then we move down to our 1/2 inch square drive socket. So that is the TW002GZ from Makita. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the new products we launched in January 2025 and look forward to a lot more new products coming out in the future. For any of the information, specs or pricing on the products that I've just shown you, they are all available on UK Planet Tools' website, or check their social media out for their new products coming out throughout the year. And I'll see you next time with some new tools.